Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again are my co-hosts, Richie O'Leary and Alec Krauthamel. A lot to discuss today, guys. We are going to talk about what Greg Schiano had to say during his pregame or his game week presser for the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. We will get into what we saw in game film, do a little capitulation. We'll talk about something we were wrong about in the preseason preview and something that we feel vindicated by after one game. And then the same thing for our opponents, one team that we feel vindicated by being, either as good or as bad as we thought, and then one that might be significantly better or worse than we thought. We also get into some areas that we think need to be cleaned up in order for this team to take the next step in 2025. And Rutgers Athletics has announced a new hire. And we'll get into who that is, what role they're taking, and more. But first, this podcast is presented to you by FanDuel. If you haven't already seen the line for the Rutgers-Miami game, it opened at a 14.5 point spread. So Richie was the winner of the estimation. I had 16.5. He had 13.5. So right now it's at 14.5 with a 46.5 over under. I got to be honest, I don't feel great about either of those numbers. I think I could see this game going really either way, where either it's a low total game rather, where Miami of Ohio still can't kind of work out its kinks from last week, and Rutgers wins but doesn't cover, or I could see it where Miami of Ohio kind of gets their shit together, and it's a similar game to the Ohio game because I'll tell you right now, their quarterback can be pretty dangerous in both phases of football, but we'll get into more of the Miami preview tomorrow with our beat writer for Miami. But let's talk about the Greg Schiano press conference, because I felt like there was actually some really interesting things he said out of the presser. You guys can agree with me or not. But the first thing that really stood out to me was the Doug Blue Eli stuff. Now, he got hurt. He's out for the season. It sounds like he's going to be back for next year. But what Schiano said specifically was that they were really excited about Doug. They were expecting him to be a major contributor. But he said that it's unfortunate how he got hurt because you got to know not to do certain things in practice. It sounds like he got hurt in, and this is speculation, one of two ways. Either one, it was some kind of like practice scuffle where he got an injury from, something outside of playing football, or two, in practice, you're not supposed to be doing like live tackling, and maybe he got brought to the ground after the whistle or when they wasn't supposed to. Is that the kind of read you guys got on that quote from Schiano too about Doug Blue Eli?
Yeah, he said it in I forget which presser it was, but he was talking about how they were just doing thudding. So I guess it was like after the first scrimmage press conference, and he was very adamant about that. And we know Doug Blue Eli wasn't there for the first scrimmage, so it was kind of like, all right, maybe he's fine, maybe he's okay. So I would kind of assume that kind of goes hand in hand with the timeline, basically. So I would probably say it's probably just a stupid tackling drill. And they were all very adamant at the BTN tailgate tour that like, oh yeah, they did a really good job of just staying up and staying up and staying up. And it's like, okay, that was also like the first week of practice. So it's like, okay, Doug Blue Eli wasn't there either. So it's like, okay, like it's probably, if I had to guess, it had to do with him just getting tackled and hit on the ground and twisted something. And of course, we know how that all works, like knee pops or knee ligament pops or whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting the way that he worded it. He said it was like a silly thing, which almost makes me think it's more of the first part of what you said, maybe than the second part, but we don't know for sure. He also said like, I feel like we practice well, but that's just something that like can't happen. It seemed like they were. I mean, obviously you're very upset when one of the guys that you figure is going to start is out for the year, but just the way that went down, it seemed like he was still like kind of, I don't know about kicking himself, but like still kind of. Not feeling good about how it happened, especially since, I mean, like we'd been hearing that he was supposed to be, one of the major guys on the defensive line.
Yeah. The second big thing I took from the presser came at the very end when somebody asked about I think it was Brian Fonseca asked about Jacoby Henderson and his performance. And if you look at the PFF grades, he was I think he's currently ranked the 14th highest graded cornerback. He made 2 huge pass deflections. He was just really playing well against the Bobcats, both from the initial watch in the stadium and from the rewatch. Schiano was just effusive with the praise for Jacoby Henderson, said that he's a guy that always wants more. He's a guy that loves football, and Greg loves to coach guys who love football. He's a guy who's always in early watching film. He's a guy who just always asks questions. And the thing that I thought was the most telling was that Greg said he wishes more guys would follow his lead on how he prepares and just how he carries himself. He didn't say carries himself, but how he basically puts in the work, I guess. To me, that kind of felt like a shot across the bow. Like, I'm not saying this team is lazy, but maybe the lack of maybe there's not a lot of guys going and putting in that extra effort. Obviously, just speculation, but Greg doesn't say these things for no reason. I'll just go there. Alec, what did you take from that quote when he was talking about Jacoby Henderson?
I mean, it seemed like one of those things where when he's talking about, like, when he's praising, one of his own guys, it's a lot of times he'll say, like, this guy loves football and I want to coach someone who loves football or something, like, he usually says things like that when he's praising, one of his guys. But yeah, I thought that last part was a little bit interesting. Now, maybe our view is kind of clouded from the way the defense played on Thursday. I feel like he says things, I don't know if he means, like, like he says, like, the guys aren't fully into it like Jacoby is. Maybe he's just saying, like, more guys in general that that are out there love football like him. But you're right, he does, whenever he says things, he always says things, like, the way he says things are very intentional. But yeah, it's kind of hard to tell what he kind of meant by that. The way it comes off is certainly kind of like that, but he could also just be saying, like, just in general, he's one of those guys that, you don't see too often or something like that. So it is kind of hard to tell.
And I have the quote here if we wouldn't just listen to it. It's probably the better way to do it.
What do you think of how Jacoby Henderson played, and just what has he done since he's gotten here?
I thought Jacoby played well. I really love coaching Jacoby. He loves football. And I love coaching guys who love football. He wants to always watch tape. He wants to come in and talk scheme. He wants to talk about our opponent. Here's a guy who lives it, and we need to just keep doing that. And we need some guys to follow his way. Like, that's the kind of preparation. That's the kind of juice that I like to coach. And I like guys that are lit, that are on it, want to go. I think he's been a great addition, and hopefully he can pull some with him.
So he made a point to come back and say pull guys with him after already making that comment. Rich, what do you take from Schiano's comments on Jacoby Henderson?
I kind of agree with you on it. Like, I do think that I don't know if lazy is not the right term. I don't know the right term for it, but it's just guys need to just be in the film room more. Guys need to be more active with just everything. Because, like, they track how much film you're watching. Like, we've seen it all the time over the years. And it's like, oh, this guy has 0 hours on his iPad. Like, he's not doing jack shit. Whereas Jacoby Henderson probably has like 400 hours on his iPad. And it's like the only hours he missed were like the 8 that he was sleeping. And that was it. Like,
yeah.
So I do think that some other guys, and it probably talks about the secondary too. Like, it feels like those guys struggled mightily on Thursday. And maybe not just the secondary, but the defense we saw struggling. So maybe it is just kind of a slight towards those guys, not in that bad of a manner of like calling them out, but it's more of like, hey guys, like you got to watch film. I've been telling you got to watch film. Like, you're not doing it. Like, if you watch film, half of that stuff doesn't happen. So yeah, I do think it's probably a little bit of like a encouragement type thing, I should say.
Yeah, because it's not lazy is not a good word for it either, because these guys are all busting their ass. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody specifically, but in football, it seems like if you do what's asked for you, that's kind of like the bare minimum. Like, what you need to be doing is also thinking about all the different ways you could put in that extra work to get you that 1% better and get that edge that maybe your opponent doesn't have. And if we don't have a team collectively all kind of doing that, and it's just here or there, like, you're not going to take the next step that you want to. And we'll kind of get into what those next steps are later in the pod. But is there anything additional from the presser you guys wrote there that kind of I don't know, perked your ears up that you heard Greg talk about? Richie, I'll let you start.
I asked him about having a game of film to kind of teach all these new defensive starters off of, and he called it overrated. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I just was a little shocked he called it overrated. But he did bring up a good point. He's like, we've had film on these guys for God knows how long. Like, we've seen them, but I'm like, I feel like it's different to have film like on your team versus like having film of them at New Mexico or James Madison or whatever. Not New Mexico, UNLV. That's what I meant. But yeah, I mean, he did mention, he's like, and he really went in depth with it about having like 2 missed tackles in the front four, 2 missed tackles in the linebacker room, and 2 missed tackles in the secondary. And that should be your goal. And they only had 8 missed tackles. It was more about Parker Navarro breaking contain and just being able to create something out of nothing. So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting to just talk to him about that. He went pretty in depth with the defense, and they just got to get better. Basically, it's all about fundamentals, and I felt they were lacking there a little bit. But yeah, I thought overall the press conference was just very Greg Schiano-esque, nothing crazy.
Yeah, in that same vein, he was really talking up Daquan Finn and Miami. I mean, they're a solid defensive team, and Finn, I mean, watching some of what he was able to do at Toledo, he can be dangerous if you're not careful. And I think, honestly, playing someone like Parker Navarro last week will kind of help them this week because I mean, if he just breaks out and runs for 100 yards, then obviously something didn't go right. But you already have the training and the practice of going against a guy who can really make stuff happen with his legs. So I feel like, now that you're teaching that for another week, now it doesn't matter if they're teaching it and it just doesn't work like we saw at times last week. But at least you have that preparation kind of already in the back of your mind. I thought it was also interesting how he talked about Dante Chin at left tackle. I forget who asked him about it. I think it might have been Chris Eisman asked him about, Chin got the start at left tackle. He actually said that he kind of was playing there in training camp out of necessity and then played well enough to win the job. I mean, he played a lot of the snaps. Like Tyler Needham got like 2 series at left tackle, and he did fine, I guess. But Chin was also pretty good, so it seems like he'll probably stick there. But yeah, those are just a couple of things that stuck out to me.
Richie, I want to play the question and his response to, because I thought because it seems to kind of like go against what he said before the season, where he doesn't really know what he's got with his defense until they put the pads on and kind of go out there, because he talked about they only really do live tackling during scrimmages, and how there's just so much that you won't know about your defense until you get out there and play. But to say that it's overrated, he did use that word overrated, so I'm just going to play the question.
Yeah. So many new defensive starters. What's the process kind of like for both the coaches and the staff now having a whole game of film to kind of teach off of?
I think the film may be, a little overrated in that we've had film of them. But look, you can say whatever you want to them over and over again, both the coaches and the players. But when you go play a game and now it's real, now I think it has a little bit more of an urgency on some of the things that are being mentioned. And that's what we need to do. Defensively, we need to be better fundamentally. It's not where we tackled hard. We had 8 missed tackles, which, when you look at it, the way we always look at it is if you can contain it to 2 per level. So 2 missed tackles for the front, level 1, 2 missed tackles for the linebackers, level 2, and then 2 missed tackles for the secondary. If you can have 6 missed tackles in a game, it's a pretty good game. Because, again, you're playing against good players. To have 8 missed tackles against that quarterback is pretty good. So, usually tackling something you really worry about to start the season, I don't think that was an issue. We lost contain several times. And you just can't do that against a quarterback of that caliber. And we're going to have it again this week. Daquan Finn is a really talented, athletic quarterback with a big arm. You're not part of 93 Division I touchdowns by chance. That's by being a good football player. So we need to take what we see, what we've made mistakes on, and really improve on it this week. And then the things that we're doing well, we need to just enhance that.
So, yeah, I'm not a football coach. I'm not going to pretend to be, but it does seem to it would seem to be helpful to kind of reinforce, I guess, maybe that's what he means by it's overrated. It's like they're not going to teach them something different from one game of tape than what they taught them in training camp, what they taught them in the spring. But maybe, sometimes like your parents tell you not to do something, and maybe it's not to touch the stove, maybe it's not to do one thing or another. And they could tell you 10 times not to touch the stove, but really it just takes getting burned one time for that lesson to kind of crystallize and realize, oh, they knew what they were talking about there. Maybe that's kind of what they need, is just that like reinforcement. It's like, this is why we tell you guys to, when you see this guy, you got to run at this angle, or, when you see this look, this is your responsibility now. Like maybe you just need that one time where you mess up and you made a big mistake or made a medium-sized mistake to really have that lesson kind of sink in as a player. Anything else that Greg said during the presser that you guys thought you wanted to touch on before we kind of get into what happened on the film?
No, I don't. I got nothing else.
All right, perfect. So we all rewatched the game, and we kind of all independently kind of took some notes and had some things we wanted to talk about. I guess we can kind of just go in a circle here. There was a lot of, obviously, things that need to get cleaned up on the defense. I think the number one thing that I saw, and I guess this could be like the three, we'll at least choose a key area that needs to get cleaned up in order for this team to take the next step. I'll go first. The defensive line and the defensive front needs to do a better job keeping contain and not getting blown off the ball on the snap, because there was far too many times where the defensive line just, because they wanted, Parker Navarro was very comfortable while rolling out, buying some extra time, extending plays, and our defensive ends and our DBs, when they were blitzing, were not able to kind of force him to stay inside the pocket. And as soon as he rolled out, almost every time he was making a splash play, whether that be a scramble, whether that be, buying that extra second or two to let his guy get open. And on some of those passes, man, he just threaded it in there. Like there were some plays that you just got to tip your hat to him, because like the two plays that really stood out to me it was a 3rd and long early in, I think it was in the first quarter. The guy Hendricks, it was a crosser over the middle. Cam Miller played it perfectly. He got a deflection and somehow just like deflected right into Hendricks' red basket, and he ended up, converting on 3rd down. And, sometimes you just can't, you just get lucky. There was another long throw that he made into triple coverage later in the game, which is just like, if Bo Mascow turns his head just a little quicker, if he plays through the receiver's hands, it's just an incompletion, but just a perfect throw. You got to tip your hat to him. Other times, it was just, we did not do what we were supposed to in terms of keeping contained. So I don't have a great solution on how to improve that. Because ultimately, like, this shouldn't be new. We have 2 fifth-year seniors at defensive end. We have a bunch of, really experienced guys up the middle. We have, like, there's experience all over the football field. So if we're not able to keep contained against a team like Ohio, I think it does not bode well for the rest of the season. What do you guys think about, the defensive front not really keeping contained on against Ohio?
It's technically 5th-year seniors across the board. If you think about it, it's those interior guys. Just, I'm very concerned with them. Like, I didn't think Oliver Billette was even going to be a contributor, and I feel like he has to be now because Doug Eli's out. They have no choice. I thought Dengoe would play a lot more. He only played like 8 snaps. Like we're at the point where they're throwing out Henry Hughes. Like, Henry Hughes hasn't touched the field in his 5 years with the program. Like. And it's not a knock on him. It's just he hasn't developed correctly. And they really haven't developed defensive tackles at all. Like, there's a reason they went out and added 3. Or 2. No,
2.
Billette. Yeah, Billette and Dengoe.
3 because they got Blue Eli, but obviously.
Oh, Blue Eli. So it was 3, yeah. So it's just, I think that loss is going to hurt a lot more than people think. But between that and between the guys on the edge, and I actually thought Eric O'Neill kind of settled in a little bit and did pretty solid. But I need to see more Bradley Weaver. I just feel like Jordan Walker wasn't really able to create a ton of pressure. I know I think he had like one pressure on the day. And I know he started, and I know he's a senior, and I know he's got the feel good story, but I need Bradley Weaver to go out there and be the Bradley Weaver that he was last year. I need Eric O'Neal to go out there and be the Eric O'Neal he was last year. You need more pressure, and there's just not enough being created at all. And those guys on the interior are just kind of just there. Like they're not really, I feel like they're not doing a whole lot. Maybe it'll change this week. It's a totally different team. Maybe Ohio's better than we think. Who knows? But when Shedrick Rhodes is bullying your edge rusher, it's like, okay, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I did feel like O'Neal made a couple of big plays in the run game in the fourth quarter, but I didn't see as much in terms of getting after the quarterback. I thought he also kind of broke contain a couple of times, maybe trying to make that big play as a pass rusher. But I felt like the defense kind of started to stabilize and settle in a little bit in that fourth quarter. They made a couple of big plays. Looking back at the notes that I had from rewatching, that last drive that they had on defense, it really was much better than the second and third quarter, where it felt like things were kind of slipping. Like in that first play, they force a short gain, if it even was that. O'Neal kind of pushes the right tackle back and then disengages and gets a hand on the running back. He did that a couple times, actually, pretty well. And then there were some, not so good plays, like the little shovel pass to the tight end. There were two guys that ran after the play action, and then that left the tight end wide open. And luckily Jabome was there. That could have been a 30-yard gain, and we could be having a totally different conversation right now. And then the third down, where Moses Walker was trying to get the attention of Jordan Thompson on the line, clapping his hands. That's just one of those things. Like, it's a rule change. It's unfortunate. Kind of got to know better there, but it's the first game with that rule change, so it is what it is. But then he made up for it a few plays later, where they send everyone at the line of scrimmage. And then, I think it was Walker. Walker obviously got through, but Jordan Walker and Jordan Thompson both had the opposite side as well. So Navarro was kind of stuck in a box where he couldn't really get to the outside, because I think there was someone blitzing from there as well. And then Thompson and Walker both had the opposite side, the strong side of the field. And then Moses Walker just kind of went right up and got him. So definitely some inconsistencies. I felt like that last drive, and also the second to last drive, actually, even though Ohio scored on an unfortunate broken play, where it looked like they had Navarro bottled up, where he was rolling towards the sideline. Then the tight end just kind of leaks out. Two guys run into each other, and that's a wide open touchdown. But there were some good things on those last two defensive possessions that signaled, maybe they're starting to figure things out. And Parker Navarro maybe just is that good, but need to see a lot more consistency. It definitely, in terms of the angles as well, just felt like they were taking some angles that left a lot to be desired, and then they were missed on the tackles. So it seems like there were some encouraging things late in the game, but a lot needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I 100% agree that the last drive, when they needed to get some stops, they played the best football that they played all day. Eric O'Neal was flashing on that final drive. He had two key stops in the run game. Kaj Sanders had a nice open field tackle of Parker Navarro when they really needed it after struggling with tackling throughout the game. And then obviously you mentioned the play with Moses Walker.
And also one more thing on that drive. How about that coverage from Henderson on the deep shot?
Oh, yeah.
He was stuck to him, and it was an overthrow. And also, Keshawn Griffin got past the guard and kind of prevented Navarro from fully stepping into the throw. He kind of had to, not off platform, but he kind of had to go off his back foot a little bit, and that ball sailed. So that shows, when the interior can get pressure, it really throws everything off. And even if that was an accurate ball, Henderson was there anyways.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rich, what's the key for you that they need to clean up for this team to take the next step?
I think the secondary just has to be better. And you could kind of say that overall, but specifically with tackling and angles, Kaj Sanders missed a couple tackles. I think, honestly, I was looking at PFF, and they have, out of the 9 tackles they missed, 6 of them were in the secondary.
Yep.
Majority were from Jet Eli. Jet Eli, just like Alec said before, I think we said in our post-game show too, but he was just a speeding missile. He wasn't able to turn at all whatsoever, and if he missed the guy, it was just he missed him by a mile.
And when he did, sorry to cut you off, but when he did make the right angle, he really made some big impact plays.
And I think he'll clean that up, and I think he'll be better. Kaj Sanders did some really bad stuff too, just really took bad angles as well. And then Cam Miller just couldn't cover. I thought Cam Miller was going to be cornerback 1, and I know he's starting in the nickel now. And I just feel like he's too good to be struggling against an Ohio team like that. And it seems like when Parker Navarro broke contain, that's when the secondary kind of just gave up. And then that's where you'd find a broken play or an open man. And it just felt like the secondary just needs – there's a lot of things they have to clean up, especially coverage-wise, especially tackling-wise. But overall, I just feel like the secondary needs to just I mean, it sounds stupid to say this, but they just need to play better. Like there's just – if they're going to have this bad of a – or no pass rush up front, you're depending on a secondary that's not very good. I mean, I don't know. I just thought they would be so much better. I'm like actually disappointed in the Greg Schiano secondary.
Outside of Jacoby Henderson, yeah, it was pretty rough to watch on Saturday.
Yeah. And I think they'll clean it up, I think. But, like, so far, it's just not a good look. And I know it's all newcomers and they got to gel and yada, yada, yada. But so is all of college football. So I feel like that's kind of just an excuse at this point.
All right, Alec, what's a key that you saw from the game that they need to clean up in order to take the next step in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a lot of what Richie was talking about as well. But to be different, I mean, I really don't have any complaints about the offense, and I don't think anyone really should. But aside from a couple things, the passing offense, no complaints about. But it felt like they kind of went into let's try to salt this game away mode a little bit too quickly. Now,
yep.
Obviously you have to, and we'll get to that as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but obviously you can't just pass every single play. You do need to run the ball. And we saw that on the last drive where they salted out the last 7 minutes of the game, where Ohio was just sending everybody. They were selling out for the run. They were sending both of their linebackers towards the line of scrimmage. And that opened up the play action where you got outbreakers with Strong and Duff and Sheffield. You're leaving them open because the cornerbacks kind of have to shade inside in order to prevent some kind of post or slant or anything like that where there's a bunch of open field. So they're kind of just giving you the out routes. So that's kind of what the play action does. So you do need to run the ball. I'm not saying that, they just need to pass every play. I'm not saying that Ethan should throw like 50 passes a game. But it felt like the philosophy just kind of changed where it was like, all right, we're just going to run out the clock. We're going to try to salt this game away. And, let's try to the word I'm looking for, let's try to just slow everything down and just, eliminate any and all risk by just, kind of slowing it down and things like that. And I feel like they're I'm not saying that they have to go away from that because obviously, it worked in the last drive, but I feel like in the third quarter, because we've seen this in a couple times, it's that third quarter where things kind of slow down on offense and things kind of stall out. We saw it in the Kansas State game, things like that. The Virginia Tech game, even going back a full year. I feel like things like that, you need to stay aggressive and really go for a kill shot.
Yeah, Greg likes to talk about complementary football a lot. I think each team has a unique kind of set of attributes that you need to kind of fine tune everything for. So if you have like a really stout run defense and a really good run game, like it makes sense to kind of like salt the game away and maybe, not have to, try and win games aggressively. I think this team, given the defensive struggles, I think we need to continue to be aggressive because when you go from aggressive, like you were earlier in the game, to conservative, like your mental kind of like the momentum changes, your mental outlook on the game changes. So when you have to then rubber band back to being aggressive, like Rutgers had to, they did a good job of it. They won the game, so you give them credit for that. But that's going to be really hard to do later in the season when your opponents get better and where you're probably not going to have the same opportunity. So I hope to see them just continue to be aggressive but not reckless moving forward. And obviously you can say, well, Mike, they went for it 5 times on 4th down. They got it all 5 times. Yeah, you're right. But they did get conservative in the second half, and that shrunk the lead significantly. It was a tie game in part due to some untimely penalties and due to just running the ball in situations where Ohio was clearly showing blitz and you didn't check out of it. And I don't know, I think moving forward, they're going to need to be aggressive against the Big Ten slate because you're not going to win games trying to salt it away starting at halftime. It's just not going to happen.
Three of those 5 for 4th down conversions were in the first quarter. So like it goes back to what you were saying. Like they just need to be more aggressive. And I don't understand why I don't like the idea, but don't take your foot off the gas. Fuck it. Put up 40, put up 50. Who cares? You're going to give up 20. It doesn't really matter. Or you're going to give up 30. Like it doesn't matter. If you have 50 points, who the hell cares? Like
and we were getting whatever we wanted the whole game, like Alec was saying, through the passing game. Like Ethan was 18 for 23, I think, and 2 of those were throwaways and 2 of them were drops. So like he literally just had like one bad throw all game. Let the guy cook. I don't know. I think they will. In fairness, I think there's probably some tweaking that they always say like the biggest improvement you see is from week 1 to week 2, and that's for everybody from coaching to play calling to players. So I do think that that'll adjust slightly, but it just needs to be a philosophical change. This is a team that has this, they're good at this, they're bad at. How does the offense need to play in order to complement the defense? How does the defense need to play to complement the offense? How does special teams need to play to kind of complement both as well? The thing that we haven't talked about yet that I think might even be like the biggest area of improvement for this team is we just like lacked eye discipline all day. There was way too many times where linebackers were caught looking in the backfield, biting on fakes. Safeties were caught looking in the backfield, biting on fakes. I don't want to single out a single guy, but Kaj Sanders was responsible for all 3 passing touchdowns in the red zone, all the tight ends, because he either bit on the fake and didn't get to the tight end quick enough or just was not covering the tight end when he should have. It just needs, like, there was plenty of times where, Jabome bit on a fake and, Parker Navarro's scrambling out. It was just a lot of plays to the outside that were due to lack of eye discipline by the defense. And that needs to be a serious area of emphasis, in my opinion. Just hammering, like, you got to maintain your lane here. You got to remain disciplined. This is your assignment. You need to be here in this situation. It's a play act. They run a lot of play action. You got to be disciplined. That's the only way this is going to work. And Daquan Finn's going to do the same thing. They run a ton of play action too. So that's probably the biggest area I'm hoping to see improvement from in the second game and moving forward.
And that was something that Greg Schiano kind of talked about after the game, the post-game presser, when I asked him about the linebackers. He said, some games are played in a phone booth, where things are kind of compressed towards the middle of the field. This game was wide open. So once you kind of lose your lane, it can really cost you because the game is so wide open. And you heard, I forget who the analyst was, but I believe he was a safety at Minnesota. I forget his name though. But I thought he did a good job on the game overall. But he was talking about a lot of different, defensive breakdowns that needed to kind of be fixed up as well. So you could see it on the broadcast from the first view as well. So yeah, definitely some things to fix up.
I thought Moses Walker kind of cleaned things up towards the end, but like in the beginning, I thought the linebackers struggled. I was actually disappointed in Jabome. Like he was an all Big Ten linebacker last season. He was an all Big Ten preseason pick by whatever media outlets. I was just really disappointed, and I feel like it's just the lack of speed in that linebacker room too. And I think Dave Anderson said that in our season preview. Mm-hmm. They're just not true sideline to sideline backers, and they don't have that speed that they've had over the past couple of years. So I don't know. It's a little bit concerning. Like Tyrone Powell was like a freak of nature, of course, but like he before the injury, he had all that speed. Once the injury happened, that's where they kind of lost that speed, and they never really replaced it either. So it's just a concern. And those mobile quarterbacks will always give you fits, especially when you don't have any speed. So do the math here. I think this week could be a little sketch at first.
Yeah, and the middle 8 we lost as well. In the middle 8, it's the last 4 minutes before the end of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. It's something that like Bill Belichick always talks about.
You trust that guy still?
I mean, I trust him. Yeah,
I know. I'm just kidding.
Not a great start last night. That was pretty brutal. But Ohio gets the ball with about 3 minutes left, and it's 1st and 12 from their own 2-yard line. We get them to a 3rd and 9 from the 5 at the 2-minute warning, and they drive the ball 80 yards. And if not for a Jacoby Henderson Superman pass breakup on 3rd and goal, they're scoring a touchdown to make the game a 10-point game. Thankfully, we held it to a field goal. But out of the second half, they continued their march. We basically got cut through like a hot knife through butter, and they ended up scoring a touchdown in the first 3 minutes out of the second half. So they turned a 17-point game into a 7-point game in about 6 minutes of game time. and you got to play better than that, especially coming out of the second half. I want to see a better end of half kind of preparation and start of half preparation in the games moving forward.
Brock Vereen was the analyst, by the way. Got his name.
Oh, okay. Anything else that stood out from the game that you guys wanted to hit on? I know we mostly were just talking about the things the defense needs to improve, give the offense their flowers because they thought they played excellent. Special teams was excellent. Obviously, you got the blocked punt. You had some really good coverage, and you don't get the Dino Kaliakmanis big hit without the Jack Scullion great placement on the kickoff as well. So that was just overall a really pretty clean night from special teams outside of that first kick out of bounds.
One thing for me on the Ohio side, I felt like the inexperience, and I forget, what was that coach's name again? Brian Smith, I think is that coach. Yeah. I thought we saw a little bit of inexperience in that fourth quarter, just the way he kind of managed it. That last drive, you got 4th and was 8 or 9 from around midfield. I'm going for it. And that your defense can't stop Rutgers. Your defensive run game's getting gashed. And even if they're stopping the run, they're letting up some intermediate passes a lot. I would have gone for it in that instance. That's what I would have done. And I also probably would have used timeouts before the 2-minute timeout, just to kind of slow it down a little bit. So I think, I think in the fourth quarter, I think Schiano's coaching experience and the way he coached that game, the way he coached the whole game, really, I was impressed with. But particularly in that fourth quarter, I think he kind of coached circles around Brian Smith. And I mean, it's his first game as a head coach, so not totally unexpected, but that was on the rewatch. That's what stuck out to me.
I know you said this off the pod, but I'm going to steal it right now. Antoine Raymond deserves his flowers for this game. I thought he was very, very talented. I thought they even could have used him more. And not just in the run game, but like his blocking was really good. He was picking up blitzes, and I was like, holy shit, like Kyle Monangai who? Like, I don't want to say that, but yeah, I thought he was really, really talented. And it goes back to what we said in preseason. They really didn't miss a beat in that running back room. Between the 3 guys, I think they averaged over 6 yards a carry. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I really think that's a very talented group, and I think they'll put up some serious numbers this year. I am a little slightly concerned with one offensive lineman. I thought Dante Chin didn't really look great. I thought he was okay at left tackle. He was serviceable. He's fine. I know Tyler Needham's right there, and they played him for a couple snaps, but I'm curious to see how Dante Chin does against better competition, and we really won't see that this week, I don't think, and we won't see it next week either. We probably won't see it till the Iowa game. So that's the game I'm really going to be watching, this offensive line, to see how they do. I thought the line as a whole was pretty good. I just don't know if, like, Dante Chin looked like he had, like, cinder blocks on his feet. Like, he really didn't shuffle his feet at all. I don't think he moved at all, to be honest. And that lack of athleticism really is a little bit concerning, especially at left tackle, where you have to be pretty athletic. So we'll wait and see. But, yeah, I mean, good and bad.
All right, let's go around the Big Ten here. Let's all talk about the team that we feel like we might have been wrong about. Either they're better than we thought they'd be or worse than they thought they'd be. I'll start. Iowa. Man, that was a rough watch. I watched the Iowa-Albany game, and sometimes stat lines can be deceiving. Sometimes they can be very accurate in terms of what a guy that actually looked like compared to his stats. In looking at Mark Gronowski's stat line in this game, he was 9 of 18 for like 43 yards. He looked maybe even worse than that. They tried to get him going with some easy throws early on in the game, and he was just scattershot. He was missing guys short. He was missing guys high. He just looked uncomfortable. I know he had off-season shoulder surgery. He was in a knee brace in camp. Is he fully healthy? I don't know. But if this is the way that he's going to play all season, Iowa is in trouble. So Iowa, I think, is my capitulation. I think they're going to be worse than expected. I don't see how they're going to beat Iowa State this weekend if they play, if Gronowski plays like he did this past week against Albany. They went away from the passing game entirely in the second half, but he looked god awful. And Iowa media, I listened to a few Iowa podcasts this weekend, and they are, I wouldn't say it's a a 5-alarm fire there, but they are very concerned about their passing game. Richie, how about you? What's one team that you were wrong about, or you think you might be wrong about in the Big Ten?
I can't believe you're looking past Miami, Ohio week. Like you're just looking towards Iowa. I hear you're listening to Iowa podcast. You're already looking past Michael Vick in Norfolk State, who
don't you understand this is the Miami season?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm taking my L, guys. Sorry
about that. No, I'm just messing around. Minnesota. I didn't want to steal Iowa because Iowa's really bad, but Minnesota didn't look all that good against a lowly ranked Buffalo program. Like Taquan Roberson was like running the Buffalo offense, which is wild. First,
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think they look. I think the score might not indicate how well they played. But.
I like Darius Taylor. I think he's a stud, like a really good running back. I think Drake Lindsey is going to be in a little bit of trouble this year. I'm not too confident in him, and he ended up putting up good numbers in the end. But 19 of 35 is not great either. I'm not confident. They were only up 10-3 at half against Buffalo. Now it's a week 1 overreaction. So what was it? It was 13-10 going into the fourth. Like it's a little concerning because Buffalo's not good. Like I don't know. I'm just not confident. I'm not sold on this Minnesota team. And I also think that's partially me being a little biased because I picked Rutgers to upset them when they go out there. So that also plays a factor, but yeah, I'm really not confident in that Minnesota team. And I guess we'll wait and see. And it's again, week 1. So
how about you, Alec?
I'm going to go with the more with a team that was better than I thought. I thought Washington, despite some of their really sloppy play in the first half and they kind of struggled to put away Colorado State, I mean, if that team can figure it out, but in the next month and a half maybe, when Rutgers goes out to Seattle, that is a dangerous team. Damon Williams looks as advertised, and he was advertised to be the next big thing up in Seattle. Denzel Boston looks like he could be a potential draft guy. The running back whose name is escaping me, even though he's really freaking good. What's the running back? Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman looked awesome. That 1-2 punch, and then you got Denzel Boston. They got some really good talent in the defensive backfield as well. They got Sicario Davis out of the portal. So, granted, they need to clean some things up. They looked very sloppy. They turned the ball over a few too many times, penalties, things like that. But the times that they were clicking, they were really clicking. I think that team could be really good this year.
All right. How about a team that you guys feel like you were dead on about, whether it be they're as bad as you said they'd be or as good as you said they'd be? Rich, I'll let you start.
Penn State. I hate to say it, but they're just kicking on all cylinders. Now, mind you, Nevada's not very good at all. And James Franklin loves to run up the score on like non-conference opponents. But they looked really, really good. Like Drew Aller is just he's a stud. Like he's a very good quarterback. Their run game's very good. They had like 16 or 13 or 16 receptions. I forget what the stat was from wide receivers, which hell, they had 0 last year against Notre Dame.
Yep.
And they went out and added some good pieces. Like Kyron Hudson's pretty good. Trevor Pena's pretty good. Devontae Ross is pretty good. Like they have some pieces that they're going to turn into like, I think this offense is going to take that next level. And I know no one wants to hear this on this pod, but I have them as the front runner to win it all.
Whew, yeah, I don't want to live in a world where Penn State wins a national championship, but Alec, who's the team you feel vindicated by after 1 week?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people were had a similar opinion or whatever on this team, but I was also down on them. Wisconsin. Now, obviously, you got to kind of take things into a bit of perspective, considering Billy Edwards Jr. got hurt, things like that. But I mean, I guess we'll see how tough this Miami team is this weekend. But it just didn't look like they were firing on all cylinders. And again, week 1 and all that. But I just don't see it from this Wisconsin team. I think I'm not saying that Fickle's going to get fired this year, but I'm just not overly inspired by them. I wasn't overly inspired by the addition of Billy Edwards Jr. I've said this a few times now. Thankfully, it's not a serious injury for him. I believe it's just a sprain, so maybe only a couple weeks or so. But I'm just not overly inspired by them. I think they can play some solid defense, but I don't think they'll be very good this year.
And mine was UCLA. I thought the whole Nico situation was going to end poorly. I mean, he talked about wanting to have a better supporting cast around him, and he goes to UCLA, who is, not great last year. Obviously, they beat Rutgers, but that is not necessarily what I think of in terms of an upgrade in help around him. They lost at home to Utah, 43-10 in a game that was, never competitive. I think this is a situation that could go off the rails really quickly to the point where, like, by the end of the season, maybe Foster's not even the coach, Nico's not even there, and they're starting from, ground zero next season.
Do they have the money to do that, though?
We'll find out.
Fair.
All right, so that is all you got on football. Rutgers did make a hire this morning that they announced at 10 a.m. Rich, talk about the new hire in the athletic department.
I'm going to actually throw this one to Alec because he did more research on the guy than I did. Who, me?
All right, Alec.
Yeah, so Rutgers has hired Todd Nisley, I believe it's pronounced. I could be getting that wrong, but he will be his official title, according to the release this morning, will be the Executive Deputy Athletics Director, Chief Operating and Revenue Officer. Coming in from Ohio State, he worked with Kelly Zinn at West Virginia from 2013 to 2020. He's been working on the Learfield side for really the last 15 years or so. He graduated from West Virginia also. He's 41 years old. He graduated in 2007. He's been like a marketing type guy for a lot of his career. He started in the marketing department with the Minnesota Vikings. Then he went to Oklahoma, and he worked as the assistant athletic director of athletics, assistant director of athletics and marketing and promotions. He did that for 2 years. And then he became the account executive for TCU Sports Properties, again, kind of starting his Learfield role with TCU. And then after 2 years, he went to Marshall and was the senior account executive, so in the state of West Virginia. But then he went back to the Mountaineers in 2013. He was in a few roles. He was the associate general manager in 2013 of Mountaineer Sports Properties. Then after 2 years, he became the general manager. And then in 2020, he made the move to Ohio State, where he had his current role as the vice president and GM of Ohio State Sports Properties in Columbus with Learfield. And the big thing is the Ohio State Sports Properties with Learfield, they've done a lot of interesting things where they kind of overhauled the department during the pandemic, where they kind of worked on revenue sharing, multimedia, things like that. And Ohio State's athletic, the Sports Properties has been one of the best earners in terms of revenue. Wow, it sounded like a mobster when I said the best earners, but the department has been one of the top revenue generators. I think they're up to around $30 million a year or so. So he knows how to bring in revenue to a Big Ten institution. Also has experience working with Kelly Zinn as well, like we talked about with West Virginia. So I think this is a really solid hire as the chief revenue officer. It's something that Kelly Zinn told us last week that she wanted to kind of get going. I guess that was 2 weeks ago, but either way, so it seems like she's also staying, kind of around her circle with familiarity. So yeah, I definitely think this is a really solid hire. He was also named to Sports Business Journal's 40 under 40. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the resume speaks for itself, particularly since he's been in Columbus. So now he's going to head a lot of the revenue efforts in Piscataway.
Yeah, and she mentioned that she had somebody in mind for basically every role that they had posted, and also that there was more interest in certain people or certain roles than she even expected. So to hire somebody away from Ohio State at a high level is a huge coup for the department and a much needed role that they're filling. So I like this hire a lot. You can't argue with hiring a top guy from Ohio State, in my opinion.
Well, they tried that once for football.
Yeah, let's not
Different
talk about
scenario.
that. I feel like I had to look at his face way too much this weekend already. I don't want
Seriously, it was
pull up
crazy.
the mental image.
I'm shocked how much they showed the defensive coordinator. And they didn't show Heatherman once.
No, they
I
did.
showed
They
him a couple
Heatherman
times.
a lot.
I
Yeah,
guess fine, twice.
because he looked like an absolute psycho every time they showed him.
Well, yeah, you see, yeah, you've seen him. He does look like a psycho.
Yeah, he does not seem like somebody you want to mess with.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It was weird. There was a lot of Rutgers connections in that game. Motoré, Corey Heatherman, Chris Ash,
Cristobal.
Mario Cristobal. Yeah, old
Crazy.
family reunion.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, no, I mean that seems like a great hire. Like, and that seems like it was like a prominent position at Ohio State. I could be wrong. I don't know a whole ton about Learfield other than like what Alec just said. But for him to leave Ohio State for Rutgers, I feel like some people are probably like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yep.
So,
like the hire. We will be back in your podcast feeds tomorrow with our Miami, Ohio game preview. We have a beat writer from Miami to talk to us about everything Redhawks, maybe covering the MAC.
There we go.
But is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we head out of here? I know you guys are speaking with some players today for media availability.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. If you want to sign up, it's $1, literal dollar. You see that dollar, like you just crumble up and throw away? It's cheaper than the coffee to sign up for the night report right now.
People are throwing away dollars.
I don't know, dude. I can't.
It's not me. I'm not.
$1
doing
bill
that.
doesn't buy you anything anymore. The fact that it's $1 is impressive. Like you can't even buy like a candy bar for $1. So you could buy.
They
the
even
night
sell
report.
at a dollar store anymore.
Yeah, like it's not even a dollar store anymore. Dollar Tree's like inflation. It's like $1.50 now.
No,
Like insane. Anyway, for $1, you could sign up for the night report. It's very easy. It's very simple. Nightreport.com, $1, and you get a year to the Athletic as well. Get all kinds of good things. There's going to be another big announcement on September 15th. On3 is building a super team. So if you haven't seen already, they've gotten just basically everyone and anyone they've ever wanted that covers college football. So
Shout out Chris Lowe.
Chris Lowe most recently, Josh Pate, the list goes on and on. Brett McMurphy, like if you want access to those guys, they're on our boards. You could literally tag them and they'll respond to you. Yes, it's like Twitter basically, but better.
The funniest conversation like that, somebody like Joe Tipton like came and posted like a recruiting update, and they're like, "Are you the Joe Tipton, like the edit guy?" And
It's
they're like,
yes.
"Whoa!" It's like meeting Santa Claus for somebody on the board. It was wild. All right, well, thanks once again for listening. We will be back in your feeds, like I said, tomorrow. But for me, Alec, and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.